A very good afternoon to everyone present here, to all our esteemed guests and all the participants. I am Sushruti Tripathi from Agni Mission, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to this event. I will take very briefly some of your time to introduce Agni Mission and Idex, and then we will move forward with the program. The Agni Mission is one of the 9 technology programs under the Prime Minister's Science, Technology and Innovation Advisory Council, chaired by the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India. Agni Mission is tasked to execute the Union Cabinet's Empowered Technology Group initiative as well. And the mission is collaborating with the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Home Affairs, and the Central Armed Police Forces to explore how Indian technology can upgrade national defense and security agencies. Today, we are partnering with Idex in order to bring you this session of outreach to our MSME members specifically to help with the defense manufacturing capacity in India. As we go forward, just very quickly, there is some internet trouble at my end. I want to confirm whether I'm audible and visible to everyone.
Yes, Sushruti.
The video is degrading itself, but we can hear and see you.
You are audible and you can be seen.
Thank you so much for confirming. The Innovation for Defense Excellence Defense Innovation Organization, IDEX DIO, initiative was launched by Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji in April 2018 to achieve self-reliance and foster innovation and technology development in the defense and aerospace sectors. To take the IDEX initiative further, Defense India Startup Challenge, DISC, was launched by Defense Ministry in partnership with Untitled Innovation Mission, aimed at support startups, MSMEs, innovators to create products and solutions in the area of national defense and security. In the previous 4 editions of DISC, more than 80 startups, MSMEs, and individual innovators have joined as winners in over 40 technological areas. What we hope to do today is give you an insight into what the process to application for DISC 5 is, give you a sneak peek into the challenge winners from the past, and also introduce you to some of our industry experts and speakers and guests who will talk about the defense ecosystem and manufacturing in India and what opportunities can be taken up by our MSME members. With that, I would now like to show a short video that should give you an insight into IDEX, into what the DISC challenge is, and then we will take it forward with hearing from our guest speakers. I would request our IT support to kindly play the video. इंद्रजी वीडियो प्ले कर दीजिए प्लीज. Thank you, Satyendra ji. And I hope that video has given a very good insight to all our participants on what IDEX is, what the DISC challenges are about, and what kind of support they can expect. To talk about that in more detail, I would now like to invite our first guest speaker, retired Commander Suchan Jain, who would talk about more, who would talk in more detail about the challenge and how IDEX can help support defense manufacturing within India and particularly for our MSME attendees. Retired Commander Suchan Jain is an IIT Delhi and IIMA alumnus and a patent holder, a naval architect and retired Indian Navy commander. During service, he worked in structural designing of aircraft carrier Vikrant, modernization of INS Vikramaditya, general arrangement designing of stealth frigates, and planning management of nuclear submarine projects. In his post-service career, he has founded startups in renewable sector, mentored numerous startups and founders across sectors, and has contributed to various startups and innovation programs as the program director at DIO Idex. And I couldn't think of anyone better placed to talk to MSME participants today about the challenge and the opportunities at Idex and in defense manufacturing. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Shruti. And on behalf of IDEX, I welcome all the panelists and all the participants today for this virtual roadshow. And today I'm going to talk about IDEX and the processes which are there with IDEX for incubation of the startups. So as you are aware that IDEX stands for Innovations for Defense Excellence, which is an initiative under the Ministry of Defense. And under this initiative, organization called Defense Innovation Organization has been formulated with the help from Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and Bharat Electronics Limited. So it is basically a pathway procurement framework for accelerating and scaling innovative startup technologies for the defense sector. So it's an ecosystem for the Indian military to co-create the technologically advanced solutions for harnessing the power of entrepreneurial innovation and venture capital. So we are enabling the Indian innovation to substitute imports and transform the indigenization into innovation. So IDEX is working on some of the core principles of co-creation by the respective stakeholders, that is the startup, the military, the DPSUs, the various testing agencies. So together we are co-creating the innovative products and the services for the armed forces. It is a dual use focus where we are focusing on the technologies that have application both in civil as well as the defense sectors. So it is an open innovation platform where we just don't focus on the project type of work which is given by the armed forces and finally there is a delivery happening. It is basically a open innovation where the challenges are given and the ecosystem emerges to develop the solution and make a sustainable solution for the defense forces. So it's a corporate VC model where large corporates come forward to help the small startups, and whereas the startup get the benefit of their from the large companies out of their strategic partnerships, out of the investments, and the startups, the large corporates get the benefit of the startup ecosystem where there is flat organizational structure, there is speed in innovation. So these are the benefits out of the IDEX principles. So over the years, we have developed some key program capabilities that include a portal for the grants management, where we are able to speedily manage the grant disbursement to our startups. Now, we also have developed the Spark grants and investment framework for the quick execution of these grants to the deserving ideas from the startup ecosystem. And we have also developed a product management approach because our armed forces require quality products at the end of the day, and which should be inductible by them, and they should be keen to procure them. So we are trying to bring down the time from existing 7, 8 years, 12-year cycle to much lesser, within 2 to 3 years, where our product sees the light of the day and adopted by the armed forces. So for that, we have developed this regimen of product management approach where startup is taken through this path And at the end of it, we like to see the products that are procured by the armed forces. We are also linking the IDEX innovations to the defense procurement policy through Defense Acquisition Procedure 2020, where we have a separate chapter on IDEX itself. So we are transforming innovation in defense sector through culture of innovation through co-creation and developing technologies to deliver products rapidly and create defense tech companies and probably defense unicorns in the time to come. So this has been the IDEX journey since 2018 with its launch by our Honorable Prime Minister, where this one was announced with 10 challenges. And in 2019, we launched 2 days with 7 challenges, and also we had an open challenge. So the difference between a DISC and open challenge has been that DISC we give the challenges which are given by the armed forces like Army, Navy, Air Force, and the DPSUs. So innovator comes up with those solutions and works upon it. Whereas in open challenge, if innovator already has an idea which he thinks will be suitable for the armed forces, then he can apply in the open innovation challenge. So in 2020, we showcased our IDEX winners in the DEF Expo 2020, and we launched the Open Challenge 2 and 3, and we also launched this 4 with 11 challenges. So during this period, we also came up with a new program called IDEX for 4G, in which any defense personnel having ideas which can be converted into a viable product or service, they can also be facilitated by our IDEX program. In 21, we have already showcased our IDEX winners at the Startup Manthan in 21, which was held along with Aero India early this year. And we also launched the IDEX and PMA portal. We showcased our products of the our startups at the Joint Commanders Conference in Gujarat. And now we have launched this 5 with 35 challenges. So this is unprecedented because so far in all the 3 challenges together, we have launched only 29, but this time it is huge and we have got 35 challenges under which almost 100 startups can hope to get funded under this program. So to let you know, 2 startups under IDEX have already signed the procurement contract from the Indian Navy and the Indian Air Force. So we operate through our partner incubators, which we have a national network of 9 such partner incubators across India. They are primarily the IITs, the IIMs, and some of the leading private sector incubators. So we have had 1,500 applications during this program, and almost 20 plus agencies are working with us to make this program succeed, including Army, Navy, Air Force, DPSUs, and we have 80 plus innovators who are funded by us. So the financial metrics include almost 150 crore product development budget, which we are working on with 60 crores of Spark grant and 90 crores of matching contribution from the innovators. So Open Challenges has seen almost 550 plus applications. So at the leadership is our Honorable Raksha Mantri Shri Rajnath Singh and our Honorable Rajya Raksha Mantri Shri Ajay Bhatt and Defense Secretary Dr. Ajay Kumar. At DIO, we have Shri Sanjay Jajoji, who's Additional Secretary Defense Production as the CEO, and Shri Anurag Bajpayee as Joint Secretary DIP. He's the Additional CEO of DIO. We have Shri Vivek Nirvani ji, who's the Chief Operating Officer at DIO. Then among the board of directors is Shri Rajkumar ji, who is the Secretary Defense Production and also the Chairman of DIU, and Shri R. Madhavan, who is the CMD HAL, Mrs. Anandi Ramalingam, who is the CMD BEL, and Dr. Chintan Vaishnav, who is the MD at AIM. So some of the key highlights, the Raksha Mantri has approved a budget of 500 crores for the next 5 years for IDEX, and will be funding, as part of this, will be funding 300 startups over the next 5 years with a grant of 1.5 crores each. And Government of India has also earmarked 1,000 crore for domestic procurement through IDEX route for the financial year 21-22 to give thrust to the innovation and self-reliance in defense ecosystem. And this procurement will be only from the IDEX startups. So it is a huge opportunity lying ahead. SAFSEA's Automation has developed India's first indigenous robotic lifebuoys under the IDEX challenge called Unmanned Surface Vehicles, and it has now successfully signed a deal of more than 13 crores with the Indian Navy. So this is the approach that we have followed to basically identify the problems, which these problem statements are from the services and DPSUs, and they are thrown open in the form of the challenges. Then the industry and the startups come up with the solutions which are innovative and unique, and those challenges are then assessed at IDEX. Then these selected startups are incubated, and they are provided the Spark grant and support from the key stakeholders such as the armed forces, the other various other agencies of the defense. And then these solutions are also rapidly integrated through testing and on various defense platforms, so that they can be adopted by the armed forces in a faster way. And this leads to the indigenization and strengthening of the defense capabilities by fostering Make in India. So this has been the process at IDEX, where the challenges are curated first, and then we source the applications through holding various roadshows as one of these roadshows, and then the applicants apply through our portal, and then we evaluate and select the winners through our HPSC, which is called High Powered Steering Committees. And then grant appraisal and diligence happens, then contract signing happens, and the grant is disbursed. Then agile product development happens along with the co-creation with the Indian military. Then product readiness prototype up to TR 8 or 9 is envisaged as part of this program. Then it is marked for commercial procurement by the concerned agencies in the armed forces as well as the government of India. So these are some of the highlights of what we have done in the past. This was the Defense Connect, which was held in 2019. This is the Startup Manthan, which was held at Aero India. This is the snippets of the Commanders Conference held at Gujarat. So these are some of the IDEX success stories where Chip Spirit Technologies is one of the startups which is working on secure hardware encryption device, which is securing all the communication that's going to happen wherever it is required in the armed forces and government. The Redon Technologies is working on artificial intelligence in supply chain management and logistics. Lekha Wireless Solution has set up a tactical LAN for the naval warships. Tombow Imaging has been working on see-through armor and enhancing the situational awareness by giving 360-degree view from the vehicle. Z Motion Technologies is working on the remotely piloted airborne vehicles. Big Bang Boom and Gurutva Systems are working on countermeasures for illegal drones. The Skyroot Aerospace is working on foliage penetration radar. Amount of opportunities are lying ahead for the startups, for the investors, for the industry. So for the startups, they can hope for getting the limited tender inquiry among the IDEX startups only. So it is a huge benefit. Then there is 1,000 crores earmarked only for the financial year 21-22. This is a huge opportunity for the IDEX startups. Then they can also get into the export of their products and the innovations, and the ministry can facilitate giving permission for the same. They can also work not only in defense but also having the civilian applications. They can look forward to forming joint ventures, and we, as I mentioned, that we already have a separate chapter in the Defense Acquisition Procedure 2020. So investors can look for investment opportunities in our startups, and the industry can look for forming the strategic partnerships with our startups. So thank you, and now I will take you through a brief a process how one can participate in by applying online in our program. Just a second. I hope my screen is visible now.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. So here, this is the website of IDEX, which is idex.gov.in. And if you can see on this website, we have a button here called DISC disk. The moment you press here, it takes you to a separate page, and that lists all our disk challenges which have been held so far and the various statements. So against disk 5 only, you will see that apply now button is live. And once you click on it, it takes you to the disk 5 page. And within this page, we have a click to download the PDF. This PDF gives you all the details about our challenges. For example, Indian Army has got 5 challenges, Air Force has got 3, Indian Navy has got 5, Hindustan Aeronautics has 9, Bharat Electronics has 3. Like that, we have total 35. And the name of the each challenge, as well as the expectation from the each by solving the each challenge, is also given here. So a startup or an individual innovator who's interested in whichever statement to participate, he can find the details here. So once you come down in this, you can see there is a button apply now. The moment you click on it, it takes you to another page, which takes you to the application form for the Defense India Startup Challenge. Here we have got 3 categories. As you can apply as a startup, you can apply as a MSME or an individual innovator. So you can select any of the category which is relevant to you. You can put in your name, your various details such as gender, mobile, email, city you belong to, the state, PAN number, Aadhaar card number, and your resume of the applicant. If you are a team, you can put up one combined document, but it should not exceed 2 MB and upload it here. Then you can also upload your pitch deck here, which again is a PDF and should not be more than 10 MB. And once you go to this question mark, which gives you additional detail how you can prepare your pitch deck, there are some guidelines here. So you can talk about the problem statement, the proposed solution, the team strength that includes your shareholders, founders, other team members, advisors. What is the business model that you are working on, which will generate revenue for you? And what is the market size you are targeting? Besides defense in India, defense abroad, maybe civilian market size. So what are you looking at? The competition analysis. Have you identified your competition and how are they solving this issue? So you have to give some details about them. Then the intellectual property status that you have right now. What is the project plan and the funding requirement? Any minimum viable product or prototyping that you have already done, any traction, award, or the recognition that you have got, and other details of the startup, such as the name, registration year, registered address, website, PAN, founders, directors, etc. Some more details which are specific to Idex, such as shareholding details, the Indian foreign ownership, indigenous content, both on the component and the value. And what is the matching contribution that you plan to bring? Because as I mentioned, the amount that we are funding, we expect the startup to bring at least the same amount in the form of matching contribution that could be either in cash or in kind or may have a past expenditure component. So once you have uploaded the deck, then you can also upload your solution in more detail, because our armed forces like to see what kind of solution you're presenting. So more technical details can be separately provided here in this link. Again, you got a PDF file and which has got a size of 5 MB. So here, so then moving on, you can enter the time that you are expecting to take for this development. Maximum we permit is 24 months. Then you can mention the Spark grant that you are requesting for, then the matching contribution that you are bringing in. Then you can tick this checkbox and then you can submit it. So thank you all for listening to this. Now I hand over to Shushruti for further progress of the session.
Thank you so much, sir, for that detailed insight. And I'm sure there are MSME members here in the audience today who are already in the defense manufacturing sector that will greatly benefit from this. There are also members here today who are interested in the sector but haven't really had chance to enter the sector before. And this would particularly be very useful for them, knowing that there is mentorship, guidance, and not just technical but also financial. So thank you for that detailed insight into the challenge. And I would now like to request retired Commodore Mukesh Bhargava, who's our guest expert speaker today from the industry, to share his views with our attendees. And it is indeed my pleasure to invite him to speak today, because Commodore Bhargava has a delectable career spanning over 45 years across the central government National Defense Services within the Indian Navy and the Indian conglomerate L&T as a senior executive in the defense and aerospace businesses. His most recent position was that of Vice President, Director, and member of the board of L&T Defense. In addition, he also serves as the director and chairman of multiple special purpose and joint venture companies. Due to Sir's immense contribution to the self-reliance and indigenization for the Indian defense and aerospace sector, he has been co-opted by the Ministry of Defense as an expert on numerous committees for the MOD on policy formulation for defense procurement, exports, offsets, and marine segment, as well as leadership positions at Apex Industry Chambers of India. Sir, it is truly my pleasure to invite you to speak today and give us an insight into defense manufacturing and ecosystem within India and on a little bit of your experience from which I'm sure all our participants would greatly benefit. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sushruti, and a very good afternoon to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, and to this launch of the fifth version of the Defense Innovator Startup Challenge. As the word suggests, innovation and the startup, these are the key words that everybody is talking about, including our Prime Minister. And the reason for that is very, very clear. In fact, we have just seen the last year plus as one of the most challenging time for all of us. Probably the Black Swan event, as it is called, the pandemic, which has hit us, not just the industry, but the entire planet Earth, and we still struggling to recover from that. Every dark cloud has a silver lining. And this pandemic also had a silver lining in terms of the technology innovation and the new normal, as we are calling it, how this was perceived, executed, and successfully achieved. And this is something that really makes us bow our head to the human ingenuity and innovation. Now, when we look at the paradigm of our national security, we are finding that we are going through some of the most challenging times. In 1989, 88, 89, when I did a staff college at the Defense Services Staff College at Wellington, we were given a scenario of a possible two-front war that India may face in the future. We all did these kind of exercises thinking this is theory, in practical this will never happen. But lo and behold, just about 30 years down the line, we are actually facing a reality of a two-front war. This is becoming even more complicated with the recent event that has happened on our western neighbor, Afghanistan, and the threat and the possibility of the calamity that it can bring about of an asymmetric war, which actually started from the 9/11 2001, and we just celebrated or rather mourned the 20th anniversary of that event. It has actually changed the complete paradigm, and this is what has brought the importance of innovation in defense. I would also like to touch upon what is happening in and around our Indian Ocean region, or IOR as we call it in the Navy. The only nation which is named after a country is now become a playground of all our competitors who are trying to make life more and more difficult for us. I often talk about what I have now termed as the string of pearls theory for the Chinese. China needs the oil, and the oil is available in the Gulf. It needs it for its energy needs and for its growth. And between the oil-rich Gulf and China lies this, what we call as the Indian Ocean, in which the countries, the peninsula of India is projecting, and there can't be any more reason for us to be very, very protective towards this particular region. Now, what we're finding is that China is creating what is called as islands of influence, starting right from the Gulf to the Pakistani, then of course the Diego Garcia, the Sri Lanka, the Burma, Myanmar, right up to Vietnam, the Taiwan, and of course the South China Sea. Ladies and gentlemen, you may like to, when we talk about the South China Sea, you may like to just Google 11 dashes, and you will find that China has started creating artificial islands in the South China Sea. What is the significance of that? If you look at India, we have 7,000 kilometers of our coastline and 1.2 square kilometers of the EEZ. So every 20 nautical miles around those artificial islands become the EEZ of China. So he's virtually taken over the entire South China Sea, which was international waters, and creating military establishments over there. And as I mentioned, also into the Indian Ocean. That has led to the defense paradigm for India taking a huge change and demanding innovation from the industry to be brought to the fore. And nobody less than our Prime Minister has actually highlighted it and made it very, very significant that we have to create the defense technology within the country with our industry. About the significance of the defense, I don't have to tell you that in the defense or in a war, there are no runners up. And if we have to be emerging as a winner, then we have to have the technology and the products that are not only better, but best in class. And that is what needs the innovation and the need for bringing the cutting edge technologies, the technologies that can be lead us to the victory in war. I often say that at the birth of a great nation, there are no midwives. A nation doesn't become great because of others, but in spite of others. It can't be more true for India in the present context. And that is what brings to fore that the organization like Idex, which Invest India is promoting, and MOD project is definitely the step in the right direction. We have had 4 rounds of it. My good friend, Mr. Sanjay Jaju, we have traveled number of times together for different international events. And when we sit either in the aircraft or in the lounge, we've been talking about that how do we bring the much needed defense industrial base in this country. And the IDEX is the germination of those discussions that the two of us have had. And I'm so happy to see it not only taking a seed, but growing as saplings. And I'm sure they will become the great icons in the future. And as Sachin just mentioned, probably an unicorn in their own right. Prime Minister has been speaking about the Make in India, but of late he's very recently, last year, he changed his pitch to what is called as Atmanirbhar Bharat. When Make in India was launched, I was there in Vigyan Bhavan for that event, and the 26 sectors that he has mentioned, defense was one of them. And our present finance minister, who used to be the Minister of State for the industry, she was initiating this Make in India program at that time. And when she came and she mentioned about defense, she said, this is going to be the true driver of Make in India. Why so? Why defense becomes the driver for Make in India? The reason is that this is the only sector which has a multiplier of 7. Every rupee that you spend in defense has a potential of creating an economic value add of 7 times. And that is why today we are, if we look at the manufacturing, we are just about 14 to 15% of our GDP. If you look at China, the manufacturing sector is 32 to 35% of their GDP. And if we have to reach from the 15% or 16% to even 25%, we need to grow at a CAGR of more than 14 to 15%. And that cannot happen unless defense is given the priority. And we see the entire policy, the DAP 2020, and I was part of the drafting team along with Mr. Apoorv Chandra for this particular document. And we gave a strong importance of creating a chapter on Idex, as was Sachin just mentioned. Not only that, there are a number of other initiatives that have been taken. And when we talk about Atmanirbharta, we also need to know a country like India, which is being looked as the guru for the whole world. And the pandemic, the way we have handled, has actually not only showcased, but proved that we are going to be the guru for the world. But we cannot become that, because the sovereignty of the nation cannot be allowed to become hostage to foreign OEMs. And that is why there's a need for creating our own technologies, our own products, and IDEX is the platform for doing that. Because we are the IT superpower, we are the services superpower. In today's paper, I saw TCS has crossed $200 billion turnover. That brings it to number 2 position in the world, only after Accenture and ahead of IBM in terms of providing service. There are 3 Indian companies who are in the top 5 service providers in the world. Now, if we can do that, why can't we do the same for defense? And if we talk about defense being a strategic sector, let's take the other 2 strategic sector and how we've been so successful there. I'm talking about the space and nuclear. And in both these sectors, we need to see how did the government play it out by taking industry as a very valuable partner, the private sector industry. And that has really made the change that it has happened, that we are today not only totally self-reliant in these 2 sectors, we are actually making my company itself making nuclear power plant equipment for the whole world, including US, France, and most of the European countries. Likewise, in the space, the PSLV has turned out to be the most successful platform in the world, better than any of the American or the European launch vehicles. So why can't we do that in the defense? And with those thought process, with those discussions, the DAP 2020 was drafted with giving whole importance to one primary sector, which is the MSMEs and the startups. And they are the ones who will become the driver for India attaining the 5 trillion economy by 2025, or the guru for the whole world, as I mentioned, or totally self-reliant in protecting our borders and providing the national sovereignty. There are a number of policies, initiatives that have been taken towards that. For the MSMEs benefit in this DAP 2020, I'll just briefly touch upon some of them. Any acceptance of necessity of less than 100 crores is reserved for the MSMEs. And if the total project is up to 150 crores, it is still for MSME. All the Make One category programs of less than 100 crores per year are also for MSME. Offset policy has got a multiplier of 1.5. And all these can be leveraged if we start developing our own technology in the product. And IDEX is the route for that. The Department of Defense Production is taking various outreach programs going to tier 1 and 2 and 3 cities. IDEX, as I mentioned, this is the 5th round now. But what is significant about this? Sachin mentioned that 35 programs have been launched in the 5th version, which is more than all the first 4 combined. That is not what is important. What is important is, what are these 35 programs? And that is what we need to look at. And this is what we've been talking about at the Chief of the Defense Staff interaction with the 3 service headquarters, service chiefs, as well as with Secretary Defense. If you look at, and the Sushruti has shown us the video, which shows what are the technologies that we are looking at. We are looking at artificial intelligence, we're looking at machine learning, we're looking at industry 4.0 building blocks. Because if we have to really move from 16% GDP to 25% GDP in defense through in manufacturing through defense sector, then there is no other alternative. And I'm saying with absolute conviction of nearly 16 years in the corporate and 31 years as Sushruti mentioned, in uniform. There is no other way but for us to adopt these Industry 4.0 building blocks. And who can do that? It can't be done by L&T alone, though we've been, actually, I would like to share, Sushruti mentioned that I should mention some of my personal experiences. We make the strategic submarines for the Indian Navy. When we started making the submarine hulls, we took the reference of the Russians, and we found that we are taking almost 2 times the time that they take for making a pressure hull. By the time we moved on the 3rd program or the 4th program, we brought down the cycle time by nearly 50%. And now we're doing it even better than the Russians, who are the gurus. And how did we do that? We started using some of the building blocks which today are called Industry 4.0. When we did it, we didn't know it is 4.0. But what I'm trying to bring out is when big companies can get into those kind of technologies, which are actually the prerogative and the bread and butter for the MSMEs and the startups, then they need to do even better. And that is where the program like Idex has actually given that kind of a support and that kind of a platform to them. I would also like to mention that we need to look at how the industry can also collaborate with the academia, because this is very important. We have centers of excellence at IIT Bombay for defense and aerospace. Recently, the IIT Kanpur has signed an MOU with the Air Force for collaboration. So wherever we find there's a gap in the know-how or the technology, please take help of the academic institutions and in partnership. And I think in Sachin's slide, he did mention that you can also cooperate with the academic institutions. Last but not the least, I would just like to touch upon some of the challenges which are there, which need to be taken care when we talk about the MSMEs. The labor laws, we keep comparing India should compare with China. But if we look at the labor laws, we have got a lot to do, though number of changes have happened. If we look at the value add that comes from the MSME, it is still at the low level. And we need to move up the value chain there. There's a huge potential, but in terms of know-how, IP, and technology expertise. But what is lacking is a clear policy initiative and the hand-holding through programs like IDEX. So we need to create an enabling environment to leverage the full potential of the startups and MSMEs, educate them in terms of requirement, opportunities, and the government initiative. IDEX is doing that. In CII and at SIDM, we conduct what is called a buyer-seller meet, where buyers are the big companies like L&T, Tata, Mahindra, and the sellers are the MSMEs and startups, so that we create a platform where the two can meet. And we need to now also look at how we can create an institutionalized interaction with the foreign OEMs to get the MSMEs and startup into the global supply chain. With that, I would like to stop and we'll take up any questions, Sushruti, if there are any. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time and for setting such
We are not able to hear you.
a really
Sushruti, if you switch off your video, then
Why?
probably there may be a bandwidth challenge.
Organizing sessions like these by organizations like Idex, like exist, by we're trying to promote these challenges, and why people should be interested in this. So thank you for setting. Am I Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay. Thank you. I was just taking a minute to thank you, Bhargava ji, for that detailed context setting not just politically why this segment and why defense manufacturing is important, but why MSMEs need to, in particular, enter defense manufacturing and what that means for India as a nation. So thank you for that comprehensive background into why this is such an important initiative and why this challenge should be taken up. With that, I would like to now, as you mentioned, we will have a Q&A session shortly, and we do have some questions in the Q&A box here. This is just for all our attendees. Please post your questions in the chat and Q&A, and we will take them up shortly. But now I would like to request Shri Mudit Narayan, who is the Chief Technology Officer at the Office of PSA, Government of India, to come and say a few words as well. Mudit sir has extensive experience and academic training in technology and innovation policy, and sir's insight into the sector will definitely be something that anybody that is looking forward to participating in the challenge would benefit from and feel encouraged by. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Sushruti. It's very difficult to follow speakers like Commander Sachin and Commodore Bhargava, but it's very good to see that members of the industry are now evangelizing Idex. When we started designing Idex, it was an effort to bring India's engineers back to thinking about Indian defense, and I believe some of that purpose is served. But now I think enough has been said about what Idex is doing and what the potential is. Let me talk about the challenges specifically. I was looking at the list again, and challenges range from everything from AI to materials to processes and manufacturing. I think this is an opportunity for MSMEs to use this grant funding. It's 1.5 crores of grant funding to develop a product, to also develop their capabilities in new kinds of design, new kinds of innovation, manufacturing. If you think about how the money is given in 4 or 5 tranches with very strong guidance from armed service nodal officers on what product is required. But this money also comes with guidance on how testing is done, how validation and certifications are done. And that is very important insight for any industry which is looking to innovate, which is looking to design new products. So I would really encourage the MSMEs across people who are on this call and your friends, please spread the word that this is money to also experiment with new ideas. I think it's been very clear in the last year or so that Indian manufacturing relies on MSMEs, and MSMEs have struggled. But the way out of our current rut, or the way out of struggles of dealing with other countries' competitiveness, is to innovate with new products, new programs, and new processes. And that innovation can be supported through these grants while you're working with the armed service, with whatever DPSU or armed service. That gives you the time to create new products. We, of course, will keep a very tight ship. The program requires equal and matching contribution from the willing partners, but that goes across people's time, facilities, equipment, which allows you to build new capabilities. I don't want to repeat what the 2 previous speakers have talked about. So this was the one point I really want to emphasize on, that I encourage the MSMEs to think about how you can use this grant, the time and the guidance that will be provided by the armed services, to develop your own new products also. They could be dual use, they could be for other purposes in the armed services. So this really is an opportunity. There's a lot of non-dilutive capital, and for startups and MSMEs, non-dilutive capital to do innovation. I think that's almost the holy grail when it comes to government funding. So let me stop here. And I think there was a fair bit of questions. Not sure how you'll handle them, but I think on the one question on, can one MSME apply for multiple projects? The answer is yes. You can apply for multiple projects, but the guideline currently says that no more than 2 projects can be managed by one company concurrently. So when let's say if you apply for 5, you will not be allowed to take more than 2 contracts at one time. But once those 2 are finished, you can move on to more. So the idea is to throw the net as wide as possible. And in terms of time frames and selection procedures, I think Commander Sachin Jain already covered most of those. In terms of the specific projects, all of those are listed in the Idex websites. and a fairly good video was displayed. The details on what is being required, what is being asked for are on the website. But more importantly, the areas, if you see, are fairly wide. I really want to emphasize that IDEX was not designed to simply redesign existing components or simply indigenize or reverse engineer components. The idea was to give startups and MSMEs the chance to innovate, to bring a new approach to solving an existing problem or to solve an existing subsystem or a subcomponent. IDEX very carefully stays away from the word specifications. For too long, our defense acquisition procedures have been tied down by specifications and the systems around them. As a matter of principle, we don't use the word specifications. We use the word product requirement units, PRUs. We allow you, or we encourage you to think about how do you meet the functional requirements of the armed services through a new material, a new process, a new hardware, software, whatever it may be. So that is the kind of openness that this system provides. So the time frame, the budget is as you propose, of course, under some constraints, under in a rule-based procedure. But those answers have to be designed a priori, afresh, so that new innovation helps address these challenges. Let me stop here, and maybe there are more questions. Thank you.
I would like to take up the question with regard to the cyber security. I think there is a question, what are the views? Well, the DAP 2020 has introduced a specific chapter on ICT and the cyber security, because it just goes to show the importance that the MOD is attaching to this particular field. With the asymmetric threats that the country is facing from both sides, there are multiple programs that are in the pipeline that would be coming out under the various Make 1 and 2 categories, as well as Buy and Make Indian category for cybersecurity and its related field. So this is one segment where I would request the MSMEs and the members who are attending that they should keep their powder dry, keep their hold their horses. And the moment we have the RFIs coming out, come forward with what capabilities that you have, so that the services can tailor their RFPs to the requirement that are there, of course, but also to the skill sets and the capabilities that the industry possesses. Thank you.
Yeah, I can, thank you, sir. I can also see some questions here, which I think I can just address. So there is a question about the market analysis, why the market analysis is required when we have already given the challenge and it is very specific. So the reason is here at IDEX, we are funding, 50%, and the remaining is brought in by you. And it is not a subsidy program, it is a support and grant-based program. So we also want you to know what is the market application that you see to become viable. So in case you have not done your market research enough and you come up with your solution without having adequate understanding of the market you're going to operate in, so it may not be suitable for you. So that is why we want you to look at, do the adequate research and figure out, because for every solution, there will be someone else who will be doing it. If not in India, maybe abroad. So you need to understand your own market very well before you're getting into this. So that is the reason we have put up this requirement of the market analysis.
And if I can take the question on mentorship, I'd like to say the question is, we would like to know how the mentoring system for defense startups will be doing the challenge. I think the IDEX framework provides the highest level of mentorship in any government-funded grant program or any program which of guided innovation, because every challenge has a nodal officer from the armed services guiding the user, guiding the innovators on what will the user be using this for, or how will the user conditions look like, what is the battlefield context for that product. And that mentorship, I believe, is one of our strengths. In fact, I would hope that in a few years, Idex is no longer offering money, but just the mentorship and our product management approach. We want to come to a time in 3-4 years where we don't need to offer you money, just the mentorship that this program gives and the product management approach, because we believe those two really are the strength of how the system, how the system works, because it can help innovators design products which are directly required by the armed services, by actual users, and those users themselves guide the design. So that is a very strong component, a very strong feature of how Idex works.
Thank you so much, sir. And I think with that, we've covered all the questions in the Q&A box as well. So if there are any further questions, we would request the participants to get in touch with us after the event, and we would make sure we try and answer as many of them as possible over email or through messages. I will leave the contact details in the chat for anyone that wants to access them. But I'd like to take some time now and thank everyone who has joined us today, particularly all the attendees, and also all our guest speakers who have given us not just the broader context to why this is important as a sector, but also detailed information on how MSMEs can particularly benefit through this challenge. So once again, I would like to thank Commodore Mukesh Bhargava, Commander Suchi Jain, and Shri Mudit Narayanji for being here and for their words today that have, I'm sure, encouraged as well as given hope to all our MSME participants. With that, I would like to request Commander Sachin for a vote of thanks. Sir, if you could please.
Thank you, Shushruti. So I thank Commodore Bhargav sir to come up and spare his time for this event, and which has been this event is really dear to us. We are promoting at Idex. And thank you, sir, for giving us such deep insights into the geopolitics as well as their impact on the defense industry, as well as what it means for our MSME and the startups. Thank you, sir, for bringing out the insights to our community. I thank Agni program for giving us the support to IDEX initiative, as well as I thank Shri Muditji for he's the architect of this IDEX actually, and Muditji has been actually forming everything what is happening at IDEX, and I really thank him for being present here today and guide us as well as the audience here with his insights into the program. And with this, we come to the end, and we would like to really continue our association with the Agni program for taking it further to their network through various channels. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir. And we would also like to thank our network here today for connecting us to their MSME members. And in particularly, I'd like to take some time to thank the Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, BCIC, and CMIA's Marathwada Accelerator, Magic, as well as the Chamber of Small Industries Association, COSIA, for helping us reach out to their members and all our individual MSME members who have joined us today. So thank you for making this event a success. And we do hope to see most of you apply to the challenge. Thank you everyone for being here. And it has been a pleasure. We will share the YouTube link for this as well. It has been streamed live for our other audiences who were not able to join the conference, and it shall be recorded for anybody that wants to take a look at the picture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sushruti, for conducting it so well. Thank you.
Not a problem at all. If I could just request everybody to hold on for a minute, and we can take a quick photograph for our newsletter, and then we can conclude the event. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sanit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Muditji.
Thank
you all. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you to all our participants as well. Thank you. सत्येंद्र जी लाइव जो है वो बंद कर दीजिए, और मैं चैट में बस थोड़ी सी इंफॉर्मेशन डाल देती हूँ, उसके बाद आप मीटिंग भी क्लोज कर दीजिएगा।
ओके मैम।
लाइव आप ऑफ कर दीजिए।